Okay, welcome back everybody to the Refs Crease. We have a recurring guest with us today. He's a 50 plus year official and my dad, Andrew White. Welcome back to the podcast. Um,
Hey.
maybe we touched on it in our original podcast, but maybe just give the listeners a brief history of your vast experience in this game and let them know where you're at now.
Yeah. Okay, good. Nice to see you again, son. Yeah. Well, my officiating started way back when I was coming out of uh, hockey in Kamloops, actually, small town in BC here. And typical like everybody else, someone just said they needed a referees and what have you. We didn't have any in those days. And I said, "Oh, I'll give it a shot," and what have you, and kind of went from there. And that developed in. I think I mentioned the last one. We weren't even getting paid in those days, and we were part of the group that got together to get payment the for the vast sum of $5 for a game. But that started a whole thing in Kamloops, and uh, but because I was liking it and what have you. I did a little bit of training. I went to some camps and what have you. Um, as you know, you're living in the rural areas of Alberta. Kamloops was kind of rural at the time, and
Right.
they didn't have a lot of officials. So, and junior hockey was coming along, and they needed officials. So, I got onto the ice as a junior on juniors doing juniors, and even the dub at the time when it first came to Kamloops. And I got probably more experience than for what my experience called for, but that's just the way it was. They needed people to cover it, and so we got a lot of stuff. We used to do junior hockey games all through the Okanagan. We would do, and then in Kamloops, we would be either linesmen, and referees, and what have you. We even had I can remember in Merritt, they came up with the red and white. We used to have a red and white jersey
Oh, slap
for
shot
a
style.
referee. Huh?
Slap shot style.
Yeah, yeah. They didn't know that at the time,
Yeah.
but anyway. So from there, and then I moved down to the coast, and I started officiating down here, all through Surrey, BC, all through the oil, the Lower Mainland. We could do games all over. We didn't have to necessarily stay in the rinks,
Right.
and particularly when they came to assigning online, you could pick games and what have you. So I did a ton of games in minor all the way up to juvenile, and didn't do junior by that time because that was a whole different area.
Yeah.
But and then during that time, I was referee in chief. I actually had a referee's crease magazine we had.
Yeah. Which is this
Put on
podcast
that.
is an homage to for sure.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So we did that. I did that for quite a few years. I took breaks during the time, and then when I came back, I did that. And then I was still doing. I use the term minor, but if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And we would also men's league started to come along. We had a certain men's league that I did a lot of, so I got experience on both sides of it as we went along, and then. Eventually, I moved out a little farther out to the valley, and I finished off right around COVID. I decided that it was time to pull the the officiating thing.
Yeah.
There's lots of guys that are still doing it.
Yeah.
And the age, I mean, because you can even now. I could go back in and do men's, plus 40 leagues and all that kind of stuff. I could go back in and do minor if I wanted to, just bang around in the U13s and U15s if I wanted to. I, but I've chosen not to do that. One of the big reasons is you've got to think about as you get older is getting hurt, and
For
that can
sure. Yeah.
happen a lot more now
Yeah.
in the game
Yeah.
because kids can shoot the puck a lot better,
Yeah,
and or things can happen, and you really don't want to get hurt
yeah,
because that's your lifestyle.
for sure.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
so as I say, I'm currently I'm not on the ice anymore. In fact, I donated my skates.
Yeah. Well, and they're
You
getting
know,
put
right?
to good use. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, but just so a little history with Mr. White here. He came to me one way back when you were one, 15, must be 15, 16. And you went to that first clinic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so we go to this clinic. He wants to be a referee, and he writes a test, and he actually beat me on the test a
Yeah,
few
that's right.
months. And he used to lord over me. He'd say, "Well, I got this and this and that." And I finally had to say to him, "When you referee one game, you can
Yeah.
start talking. You haven't even refereed a game yet."
Yeah, that's right.
That time I had done thousands of games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now things have changed.
Yeah, for
You've
sure. Yeah.
done you've done quite a few games.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Uh,
catching up. I'm catching up.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's where, and then currently, and I'm just helping out here where I can. So
Yeah, for sure. And these conversations are what we're trying to get from that, is tap into some of that experience and that knowledge and wisdom from the rink and pass it on. So, um, uh, my first question to you would be, um, what is it you enjoyed most about officiating? Do you think?
I just when I look back, I just like the game. I like the game of hockey, right? I wanted
Yeah.
to continue on. I knew I wasn't going to be a player, and when I really got it's like anything you do you don't know much about, and then you choose to dive into it.
Yeah.
You find things you didn't know about it. I began to I liked being part of the game, but in a different way, which had a real good need, and it gave me quite a fearless accomplishment when I started was doing refereeing and
Yeah.
calling games, and we'd be in the middle of good. I mean, there was always the shows, but uh, but when you did good games and you were part of it, and everybody was excited, and
Yeah.
so yeah, and and of course we traveled a little bit, and that was kind of fun. And we had a group of guys that we in those years it was mostly guys. We hung around, and then I got to know a lot of people. What one of the things when the dub, I call it the dub at the time. What was it now? The Western, is it?
Yeah. WHL. Yeah. Yeah.
WHL, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when they first came into Kamloops to put the franchise in Kamloops, the Blazers. I don't even know if they were the Blazers at the time. We would do the linesmen, but they used to send in trainees,
Right.
and the trainees, and one of them, there was a few of them, but one of them was Kerry Fraser of all people. And some of you don't know Kerry now, the young guys, but if you
Yeah.
go look him up, Kerry Fraser, in my opinion, was one of these people that really changed the game in terms of his positioning is still being used. The pivot, the pump, push, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. That was him. He just was doing that naturally, and they began to realize. And the other thing he did was he made them elevate their game. He was a fantastic skater.
Hmm.
And I'm talking an overall skater. Not There was a lot of referees because of the three-man system were power skaters.
Right.
They were going forward, backwards, and what have you. But they basically get down there, get planted in a position, then come back out again.
Yeah.
That's what the game was. But they changed the game, and particularly when they took the center lines out. But even before that, the game was getting faster and what have you. You needed really some wheels,
Yeah.
but you also needed to get out of Dodge. You couldn't be standing there,
Yeah.
right? And
For sure.
so
Yeah.
Kerry's, and to this day, I mean, he's now retired, but I every once in a while I'll see clips of him, uh, and I'll see him in games that were really. he went through the 70s, I think 70s and 80s with he I don't know when he retired, but he went through those days, and that's when the bad the Flyers were
Right.
not so pleasant. But he did there's pictures of him with refereeing with Wayne Gretzky, so he would have been there in the 90s, late 90s,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He was also famous for the hair. He always had
Yeah.
this big hair. They used to say Kerry didn't need a helmet
Yeah.
because he put so much spray on his freaking head.
Yeah, that's right.
But they finally made him put one on. It was
I
like
do
his trademark.
I
He
do
hated it.
remember old Don Cherry
Oh yeah.
DVD where he actually got corked on the top of the head by a stick, and Cherry made that comment. Look at that, not a hair out of place, and he's checking it. He's checking
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
that's right. No, he was an innovator, and
Yeah.
he developed it, and so and he would come in. But I'm sorry, I'm belaboring, but how I met him, and this is important. If you want to do anything, and you want to do it well, you have to go and get outside. You have to go get information. You have to
For
go to
sure.
clinic. You've got to grow and go to other things. Just
Yeah.
the way it was. It was back then, and they used to have the NHL had a kind of training camp, kind of a pre-training camp thing in Halberton, Ontario. And
Oh
my
yeah.
buddy and I went out there, and my uncle was Scotty Morrison, and another person you want to look up. Um, the He's in the Hall of Fame right now, but he's also an innovator that changed officiating tremendously. And I guess maybe that's part of what kept me in the game. I just really respected these people, and I wanted to
Right.
stay in. But Kerry was there, and he got a contract out of that clinic or out of that thing. So
Right.
and then he would come through every once in a while on the circuit. So we would see him when he came to Kamloops, and we go out for dinner and what have you. So I think that was a really nice time. So
Right on.
yeah.
Uh, how do you feel that the game and officiating has changed from when you first started to today? Would you say?
Wow, it's today it's way more intense than it was then. But it had to be. It has to be. Of course, when we did it. We did a lot of two-man system. Uh, my first junior game. This is they were the junior A Rockets, right? And so we had three or four referees in the game, and they all knew the coaches, and the coaches didn't like them. The coaches, so one of the referees chose to tell the coach what he thought of him. Let's just say that, right?
Right.
And they put a complaint in, and they suspended him.
Oh yeah.
What the problem was they didn't have anybody else. There was no other guy. There was only three, I think, three that were actually refereeing those games, and they didn't. So they made the call out. They called. Well, long story short, they called me. I did my first junior game. Never been on the ice with junior. It's two-man system, right? The two-man system is my opinion the backbone of all officiating.
Right.
It is for a long time. There was some even here in minor whatever they went into. They insisting on the three-man system,
Yeah.
even right down into like peewees and what have you.
Yeah.
And I said it all along, and I still stand by it. That was the biggest mistake they made in terms of people training. And two-man system, you do it all.
Yeah. For sure. I
You
agree.
put a young guy on the lines
Yeah.
in a Pee Wee C game, pardon me, or U30, what do you call them now?
Yeah. Yeah.
U13, U12, and they learn nothing.
Yeah.
So and up to just staying on that point, at the end of my career, because of manpower, I was doing juvenile AAA games, and I was 67 because I'll tell you about one of the reasons about changing the game. One of the reasons was because I could skate still with them, where a lot of guys much younger than I in the 50 couldn't. They did not keep up the skating skills.
Right.
I could skate with them, but we did those. We had to do those as two men because we didn't have anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
If officials all came up, and I would say this to the assigners at the time, said, you know what's going to happen? You're gonna get a game where two linesmen have never called a bloody penalty,
Yeah.
sitting in a room waiting for the referee, and the referee doesn't show up. What are you going to do with that?
Yeah. For sure.
And you're going to assume that these linesmen are going to know what's going on. That's my bit of a rant, but
Yeah.
anyway. So coming back to the question, the game has changed because it's well, I think the big one in terms of the game when they took the center line out. Well, I mean, some guys don't even know. Did you ever work it when you had the center line pass?
No.
I don't think you ever
I
did that.
when I when I played when I was younger, we still had two line
Yeah, I remember
offside,
calling the
but
offside
it
one
never
time.
officiated in it. I've always officiated with it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was a whole thing, and if you can look back on what that was a why they put that in. They put that in. The NHL put that in because these Montreal Canadiens were so freaking fast. None of the other
Yeah.
slobs keep up with them.
Yeah. For
So
sure.
to slow the game down, they
Yeah.
actually put it
Well, and that
in.
it did. I mean, it's a game flow killer, really. The two line pass, like,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah,
Imagine going outside. It's bad enough going get called an offsides.
yeah,
Can you imagine on a long, nice long lead pass and off you go? And,
yeah,
he's a half a step over the line before it was
yeah,
called. It was called similar to the offside rule. You had to be had your skates on the line,
yeah,
take the pass behind, all that kind of stuff. But you had to. So linesmen had to be really good.
right,
So we had different positions. But when they took that out, it changed the game so much because now I've said it before triple A Pee Wee or U13, sorry, old terms, but uh, could now hit from the goal line, could hit to the other blue line along these long passes. And if
yeah,
you're the referee at this end, there's no I don't care who you are, Carey for I don't care if you name the fastest
yeah.
skater in the
That's not, yeah,
NHL,
it's
you
not
can't
possible.
keep up with that.
No,
That's just too far to go, right?
yeah, yeah, and I mean,
So,
if that happens and it creates a breakaway situation, there's a
oh,
bunch of different possible penalties that could happen there,
oh yeah,
including
yeah.
a penalty shot that you're not in a position to see. Period.
No,
Like,
absolutely. And yeah. So so the game has changed. They've adapted to it. I mean, linesmen's positions have changed and what have you. They've changed your communications. When we were doing it, it's gotten a lot better. The interaction as a team, has been more encouraged. There was a time where the referees wouldn't even talk to a linesman, right? It's
right, which is
now
crazy to me, but
it's encouraged. It's in
oh,
you
for
can have
sure.
conferences. You can actually even now, as I understand, you can actually have a conference and say, "Look, guys,
Yeah,
let's have a. What did you see? What did this
yeah,
see?" And their opinion is is important. I think they need to expand that.
yeah,
I think the linesman. I've said all along. I think a linesman when he goes in on a, like say a breakaway. I think the linesman should be able to at least indicate that he's seen a foul. I think,
right,
and because the referee can't, it's on a three-man system. He can't,
yeah,
right? No, on four it's different, but on a three, he should be able to at least indicate,
yeah,
and not make the call, which would tell the referee that he's got something going on, even if the goal is scored and what have you. He
yeah,
should. They should also be able to point at the net. I don't know if they can now, but they should be able to point at the net that the puck is in the net. That's
yeah.
all he has to do.
I don't know that they. I don't know that it's a like a written thing that they can do it, but I mean, if I'm in a position where I line, I don't do it often. I call a
Yeah,
lot, but in the
yeah,
positions where I am, I do point. I mean,
yeah.
he needs to know it's in, especially
That's all.
that's
The
another
whole idea is to
situation.
use your. The whole idea is they're getting better at it. the whole idea is for you want to get a feeling of the ice, all the ice, right? And but what that does mean is everybody has to be engaged,
Yeah.
and that's why that's what's changed. That engagement now, in my opinion, has thrown a real wrench in terms of training and quality for all for the whole system.
Yeah.
This it's there for I don't want to use I don't like the term elite, but it defines what I'm talking about.
Agreed. Yeah. And I mean, it's a big
Officials
reason
that are
why.
doing the higher end hockey, but at the lower levels, out in the and what we call used to call the house leagues and the C leagues and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't define there, and yet they're being dumped on by coaches and
Yeah. They're,
fans and
yeah.
what have you,
They're
and
demanding
uh,
that
and, and
elite
they're not
level.
huh?
They're demanding that elite level,
Yeah,
but nobody's doing
and
anything to
yeah, yeah, and
establish it. So that's, of course, why we're doing what we're doing here.
yeah,
Um,
exactly, and it's and it's carried on over to for those that are into doing so-called men's leagues and those kind of things because that's become very big for officials, right?
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And that even gets more complicated because some of those officials are not that we used all those officials used to come from minor.
Yeah.
They're minor trained.
Yeah.
Now I understand some of these guys have never refereed a game in their life, and they sign up and they want to be a referee.
Yeah. Well,
And
it's the same type of situation. Like certain leagues, they require that you have a level two
oh, okay,
officiating
they have to
training,
have
but
that.
that doesn't mean anything, as you pointed out earlier in the conversation where I beat you on the test, but I hadn't even stepped on the ice yet to make a call or do anything, and there's stuff you need to know about how this operates. So
I mean, if you take someone in a trade like yourself, uh, going to a trade school, and
yeah,
you guys had to go through quite a few of them to get your tickets, right?
right,
They were fairly intense,
yep,
but um, that knowledge ended when you left school, right?
yeah,
Then you got onto the job, you got experience,
yeah,
but um, you everybody needs to have retraining and has to be and has needs to be updated in everything they do,
yeah,
and I think that's now I know all the problems of doing that, but or the perceived problems of doing it, but the fact of the matter is that's a bigger concern now than everything, it's particularly in officiating,
yeah,
because uh, hockey has gotten so intense. That's the other thing. It's gotten way more. I mean, we used to have issues with fans the odd time, but I've noticed as I was leaving the game, uh, and now I'm still talking the minors and the kids and what have you.
yeah,
The intensity of the parents and what have you has gotten way off the scale, right?
mm-hmm.
And that intensity is translating to the fans' activity with the ice on the ice and officials. I mean, they've had to come in and put all these rules in and but it's also going through the coaches, which is I don't want to get well, I can't get on that subject, but right now.
Yeah,
But what that means for this is that young officials are getting the brunt of this, and they're not prepared.
yeah,
They don't know what to do about it. I used to, when I was referee, I can remember, or I was referee in chief, and I can remember where people would complain about one of my referees, 13-year-old boy, 13-year-old kid. He made a call and he did something, or he or she, it didn't matter.
yeah,
And I can remember this guy just ranting on this guy. And I'd heard the story before from someone else. This coach is really upset, and I said, "No, don't call me." And I don't know even know if the young official made a right or wrong decision. But I can tell you what I said to the guy. I said, "Let me ask you a question. Who is the adult out here?"
Right.
Because this has been lost. This has been lost. They should not be having to put up with this stuff. But I know from your experiences and what have you, you're seeing it,
Yeah,
and
for
it's,
sure. Yeah.
in your areas, it's really intense,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah, for sure. No,
And so
there's been
and
a couple
and
of
of course now you asked what change the game. Well, what that's doing is I think it's cutting your pool. The biggest pull you're going to have for developing officials are players who are playing. I I don't I really don't think because of the skating, right?
right.
Uh, that well that the skating is the other thing that's really changed the game. Um, the skill of the players, the skating skill of the players has gone way, way up. I think I was telling you the other day, I was watching a 11-year-old on YouTube doing drills that used to see maybe NHL players doing. And this little guy was doing these around the circle, front, forward, back. He was doing
Right.
transitions like we used to. I don't think I ever did. I
Yeah.
was, I could do right, I couldn't do left, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
for sure.
They're doing it like they're not even thinking of, and they're carrying a puck,
Yeah.
and they're doing this and that. That's the skill set that's coming into hockey now. So if that's coming in for the players, the officials have got to have that kind of skill set. And
Yeah.
so hopefully the officials that come in that are players, that they're not going anywhere or however they want to come in. They're coming in with that skill set.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
if they're not, that pool of getting officials is going to get worse because they simply can't keep up. You can't keep up with the I mean, we used to do games, as I were talking, even when I was young, and I'll tell you what, when I used to see a U13 game and go on AAA and they signed me to it, I'm going, let me pass that sucker off.
Yep.
I'm going, no, it's embarrassing. You can't keep up with it, but that really has nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Um, is there an area in this game that you think needs to be dealt with better by hockey governing bodies? Hockey Alberta, Hockey BC, Hockey Canada.
oh, if you're talking officiating, and this has been, but frankly, Adam, this has been a problem all the way along. If you look at how all these, so these are all volunteer associations, right? And so that volunteer manpower, and there are very few that are paid positions, you know.
Yeah.
So the the training, I know. Well, let's go back. The training has changed. It's been better. Like the clinics have been better. I know. I don't know about you, but in BC here, we used to do our upper level clinics. We get our cards within 2 hours.
Right.
Yeah, but in that 2 hours, they had amazing videos. And these were real life videos uh, and it's that area that needs to continue. Somehow they've got, and I think Referees Crease here and refcoach.ca is leading the pack on this, so that officials can get ongoing training
Yeah.
and ongoing communications, and they're not just left out there. I mean, I've been to you where you guys are. I mean, I've visited there. You
Yeah.
guys are on the hinterland. Well, we have the same problem in BC. I mean, and we even have it. I mean, even in the Lower Mainland, the farther away you get from the big centers like Vancouver or Surrey and Dale, the less communication you have, and the sad part of it is they have this. They've been, a lot of lip service is paid to it, but when it comes down to actually handling it, they would say, well, ask for a supervisor or someone to come in to evaluate you. Well, good freaking luck.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Good luck.
for
It
sure.
just doesn't happen, right?
No.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And it because of the complexities we just discussed, it will not get any better, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is, I think they've got to, well, there's been serious problems with the hockey. They got to clean up their own act.
Yeah.
Say who they are and mean what they say,
Yeah.
because two-faced, two minds are never work. So what you send out on the media and what you're doing behind, if they're not congruent, then you got to sort that out,
Yeah,
and
for
you've got
sure.
to make sure you sort that out
Yeah, I agree.
because when it comes down like for officiating, you're going along thinking that you're doing a good job, but you also have the whatever association you're in or whatever group you're in
Yeah.
behind you, and then you get into a situation, you find out, no, they weren't there at all.
Yeah, for sure.
They
Yeah.
and that's now I know that's manpower, but that's the way it is, and it's always been that way. Most of us who aspired to be to bigger stuff have actually stepped out of the BC Amateur or the Alberta Hockey or can and gotten. If you look at any of the developed officials, they'll tell you that they've gone to private clinics,
Mm-hmm.
they've gone to for their knowledge, and they're being evaluated outside of that.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, and they have paid money. People don't realize this. You've got to pay a price, and they've had to do it. But
Yeah.
and so
Well, and it's another big reason why we're doing this, or why this came into my mind, is to try to bridge that gap.
yeah,
Because well, like situation I had last year, I'm not going to get into, but
yeah,
I
yeah,
reached out to the appropriate
yeah,
governing officials to deal with it, and it went absolutely nowhere.
yeah,
I
exactly.
got one response, and then it was over. Never heard back. And this is the type of thing that goes on out here. And you mentioned the clinics and all of those things. Um, they're the same every year. The information's the same every year. And what I see is, for a person like myself who's like constantly upgrading, constantly
Yeah, yeah,
immersed in it, um, it's okay. But for those first time young officials, it's like, okay, here's the same crap that we've fed everybody year after year, and then it's like, okay, you're on your own, good luck. And then they get into a situation of a conflict, which is a good segue to my next question. But they don't even know what to do.
yeah.
They're just
Like,
like, oh my god. And
if
so
they if you went to your trade schools
yeah,
and they gave you some big stuff, and then but it was they talked about, I don't know, putting up a wall or whatever they do, and it wasn't in detail, and then they just threw you out there. And the wall didn't go up that way. You wouldn't know what to do about it, and they
yeah,
um, just quickly on that, something just kind of went. I have never understood. So we get these we would get the tests all the time, right? And I would consistently get 85 or what you said, and I would ask, and they would never allow it. I said I got 85. It's the 15 I want to know about. Why can't I not
right,
have the test back to know which questions I got wrong?
yeah,
Why is that such a big freaking secret?
yeah, right,
It's a simple thing. As we both know from learning, we're both on a kind of on learning curves.
Yeah.
It's not what you know, it's what you don't know
Yeah.
that you need help on, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it came down to those. I mean, the complicated things of coincidental penalties and all that kind of stuff. That whole thing you don't get that right away. That I
Yeah.
don't care who you are. I remember when it
Especially,
first came out, I was going, "What the hell are you talking about
yeah.
here?" Right?
Plus,
And
it's it's fine to do it on paper,
yeah,
but
yeah,
get in a game situation
yeah,
and
yeah,
then do it, right? And
yeah,
then try to remember all of that and you know, yeah,
yeah. I know it.
I agree.
Yeah,
Um like I said, segue to my next question. I recently did an episode about approaching conflict.
yeah.
How did you approach conflict situations when you were out there?
Well, I mean, describe a conflict situation. What?
Well, like
It can be anything from
you're
a
gonna go talk to a
private.
coach. He's called you
Oh,
over, and he doesn't like your call.
oh. Well, I I was first of all the years I did it, I was taught um, that you don't engage with the coaches that much. I know now it changed. They started to talk to you. I think part of
Yeah,
that
which I don't agree with, but
was
yeah,
wrong. That's right. Particularly on he could be he'd go an ape over a tripping call
right,
or something, which the reality is, no matter what he says, it's not going to change the call. So
right,
why are we wasting time? So that was sort of my attitude. A lot of times when in the rinks I worked at, the benches were very close. So when I did my signals, I would say tripping, and if he said anything, I want to talk. So no, I would I would turn away. If it was a complicated call with a major, I would go over and
right.
say. But I've learned to keep him on track. Like I used I think I've said to you, my famous line is, "Coach, I don't want a coaching session
Right.
here. I want to explain to you what's going on, and we got to get going."
Yeah.
We got to get moving.
Yeah.
This is what we saw. This is what we're dealing with. We
Yeah.
have to move.
Yeah.
And well, I don't agree with that. And I said, it really doesn't matter, does
Yeah.
it? This is what it is.
Yeah. You're
I remember a coach. It was we called a match penalty. It was a terrible. It was and happened to be on his son. But anyway, and he called me over, and his that was he says, "Well, I don't agree with that." And I said, "It really doesn't matter."
yeah.
Yeah, I've learned, and and if they, and then after that, if they continued on, then they would warn. And I had found, I'll be honest with you, I had very few problems with coaches. I don't know why. Maybe I just because I wouldn't go near them. A lot of officials seem to want to
Yeah.
go in there and be buddies and this
I
and
see
that.
it too much, to be
When
honest.
when particularly when I was working out here and doing the mine, you got to realize in Chilliwack, where as you know, it's a smaller community,
Yep.
as Devon or as Leduc or whatever. It's small. Everybody knows everybody, right?
Yeah.
Everybody knows everybody. So the officials know this and that. Some of these officials were players for those coaches, all that kind of
Right.
stuff, right? So I I wasn't ingrained into that society, but I had learned way back not to get too involved with them. You can be friendly, but just you always can I use the term professional? Keep it professional. So they
Yeah.
knew when I was on the ice, we could be buddies, having coffee, but when I'm on the ice, this is my persona, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to be your friend. I don't want to be your friend because you got to remember, there's another team.
Yeah.
So you get into a conflict with one coach, and that you just given, and it's over nothing. You've just opened the door for the other coach to start the thing.
Yeah.
So that I would keep them at a minimum, other than serious situations, and even then, I would, we would explain it and what have you.
Yeah.
And I know time and time again. they'd come up with this whole thing, and we've talked about this. Well, he's going to get suspended. I'm going, and the act we'll go. I don't suspend,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. And if there's one thing I can say, I would suggest to any official in any kind of conflict situation, because I have seen this too. Don't even try and guess. Don't even open your mouth about, like, well, generally it's like a one game, or like, you have no idea and it's not your concern. Stick to
no,
what you're there for. I recently had a match situation, and the coach, his exact words were, "Well, you're suspending my player now," and I said, "I'm not suspending anybody. I'm gonna write my report about what happened, and the league will then decide whether a suspension is necessary or it's not. It has nothing to do with me."
I like officiating too, almost like police, being a policeman.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And,
Yeah.
so if you pull me over for a traffic ticket, and he explained what it is and he gives me the ticket. That he doesn't say, well, it's gonna be a fine of this. He'll put, I mean, well, he can put on there and this and that. But the fact of the matter is, it's there. He's not gonna change it as a rule, right?
Yeah.
So the courts decide, and this is the same situation. The leagues decide what the the uh, the fines are, or the suspensions are. And you're right. And the reason why you don't want to get into it, these teams play all over the place.
Yeah.
So you have no idea where they're going, what's going next. You could go. You may see them again. You're just there to officiate that game
Yeah.
and
That's right.
let the cards fall where they may.
Yeah.
If Now I have found over the years for officials that seem to be, how we call it, kind of love to throw people out of games. There were certain guys had this attitude
Hmm.
that if I haven't thrown someone out of a game or a coach out of a game,
They
it's
haven't
I
met
haven't
their
done it
quota.
right. I haven't
Yeah.
done it right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Which I didn't. I never had. So anyway, I and down here, they were taking those officials to task because when they see too many of them, so it sort of was self-regulating on that side. But no conflicts. Now you also, when you're getting into a conflict in over a safety call,
Right.
uh, I think no matter what the coach is saying, no matter what, you've got to shut them down because, in fact, you're making a safety call
Right.
and that's your job.
Yeah.
And that's the way that you have to call it.
Yeah.
So we're not going to get into an argument
Right.
here, waste
Yeah.
a bunch of.
And like, if you're in a conflict situation and that's coming up, just let them know. Look, I made that call on the basis of safety of your player,
Yeah.
and the players involved, and then that's all that really needs to be said. I
Yeah.
mean, because that's ultimately what we're there for.
Yeah.
So
You gotta remember, we have timelines on these games. I
yeah,
mean,
that too. Yeah, for sure.
we've got, I've said it before, too many people, coaches included, are watching a lot of hockey. They're watching NHL
Yeah.
to the nth degree,
Hmm.
and somehow, and and men's league players to the nth degree, and somehow think that those what's going on there translates down to like minor hockey
Yeah.
or to amateur hockey.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
No,
They're totally different
for
rules,
sure.
and interpretations are totally different.
Yeah, for sure.
And yet they'll come across, and I think you even told me like offsides right now that you guys haven't. I don't believe you've changed. You still tag up, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah, you're
and
still
and the
tagging
feet
up,
have to be
and
on the
you're
ice.
getting guys. Well, his skate was in the zone, or
Oh
was it
yeah.
all that kind of stuff,
We had it.
right?
We had it last night.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah. complaining his foot was up. He
Yeah.
called him offside, and he said, "Well, his foot was still outside of the blue line. None of that matters. It's
No,
not a
not in
call."
our league.
Yeah,
That, yeah, coaches, and that if you want, that's the training of coaches has got to get better, and the I would think, I don't know if discipline's a bad word, but the discipline of coaches over things that are not necessary probably needs to be stepped on, but that's the manpower thing. But because it's absolutely ridiculous to me, even now, that coaches with all the things we've seen, all the bad things, and we're talking safety now, particular check from behinds, um, head contacts, but particularly the check from behind,
yeah.
that brutal check into the boards and what have that cross check, and it's still going on. We started off in that, and that's when they put the stop signs on and this and that.
Yeah.
And I can remember when they brought the head contact in, and we were all going, "Oh my God!" I mean, the guy his head's down, and he he has to be able to take a check and this and that. And I
Mm.
can remember the instructor that time, he listened to all this crap, and his line to me always was, when it was this, and I don't know if it said it before, but he said, our goal or our objective in hockey is not to give a brain injury.
Right.
And that stuck with me, or my goal is not to break a kid's neck
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
paralyze a kid, right? That's not our objective.
Yeah.
And what that kind of cleared everything up with. I don't think some coaches are getting that.
Mm.
They think they seem to have this attitude at U13, U15s or whatever, particularly the elites, that yeah, I'm just about ready for the Oilers. You know, like
Right. Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
coaching that way, right?
Yeah.
Some of them are not even buying into this stuff. I've been hearing rumors that they've been skirting or trying to skirt around it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so if you're talking about minor hockey, and I think that's got to be stopped. I really do.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough. Anything you want to add to this
uh,
conversation?
when I look, I'll just finish with this. I look at the officiating now. Um, it really is a two pronged. People get into for different reasons, right?
Yeah.
Some of them are it's just a recreational thing that they want to do, and even in minor hockey, they go out, they want to help out and what have you,
Yep.
and 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 then there's the other group who say, I really like this and I want to move up. I want to do better hockey. Not necessarily, we're not talking the show, but I want to do better hockey. I can tell you bang around in C League hockey, and then all of a sudden you step onto a real good triple A game,
Mm-hmm.
or a high end A game.
Yeah.
That gets your business going. It's much better. You go into tournaments where those guys are playing, those
Yep.
kids are playing. I mean, if you like the game, man, I can remember tournaments in particular where we used to enjoy them. We used to go and do them. We did some of them high end stuff, 2-man system and what have you. And we got a really sense of accomplishment. So for that group, well, for both groups. Um, they still have to become competent at what they're doing.
Right.
You can't go out and do this because the ramifications nowadays are really more are higher. They're being watched by a magnifying glass. They've got cameras everywhere on you.
Yeah. For sure.
I mean, even in the rinks,
Yeah.
even now, I think they're asking for footage if they've got it. Where we wouldn't allow that because we just didn't have the technologies. But now they're doing it for when the leagues have to evaluate things and what have you. So uh, if you're going to do this, you really have to develop and be competent for your own personal thing. Now, if and the other thing is you've Scott skating has been the base of the whole thing, no matter what you say.
Yeah.
And as officials go along and they get older and what have you, they they need, frankly, they need to get stay fit. If you want to stay into the to that more competitive hockey, you've got to now keep up. I used to have to go. Prior to seasons, I used to have to go do bike riding and what have you, so I get my wind up because we were doing a three-man system and
Mm-hmm.
those guys were moving, right?
Yeah.
And that's the way it is with officiating.
Yeah,
It
it's
isn't
constant,
something you,
constant work. I mean, you know how I operate. Like everything I
yeah,
do is. I heard a quote once, and the quote was that what you do in the dark is what will show up in the light. So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
all that stuff that you're doing that when you're not on the ice that
yeah, yeah,
that ups your level when you are on the ice. So
yeah.
I agree with that 100%, and that's probably a good place to end this.
Yeah.
Is with that. One last thing, you mentioned Uncle Scotty, you mentioned the Hockey Hall of Fame. Maybe let the listeners know the class he was in when he was inducted.
Uh, well, I always ask this question. What was it? No, actually, when hockey, well, he was inducted in 1999. Who else? Who is the other two people that were inducted in that same year?
Yeah, I can probably guess one for sure. He
Who was
wasn't
it?
waiting long to get in there, I imagine. So he was a
Yeah, who was it?
first timer, and that'd be the great one for sure, Wayne
Yeah,
Gretzky.
yeah, he went in the same year. And the other one was Eddie Van Hellemond. Now that's a referee that
Right.
he was Van Hellemond was another one. He was older than Kerry Fraser, but he throughout his career, if you look back on his career, he was well thought of. He was the guy they would, you know how you'll start to see in the NHL teams will start to get um, more and more tighter as they get more into the playoffs, what have
Yeah.
you. Well, when they used to do in those days, uh, they would filter out. They didn't have as many games, but they would filter out. And usually at the end of the day, it was going to be Fraser, or it was going to be Van Helleman, or
Right.
it was going to, I forget some of the other guy. Hood was another one.
Hood. Yeah,
That
for
was
sure. Yeah.
with the
Koharski.
NHL games, right? Huh?
Koharski.
Koharski, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Koharski, really, he got hurt. Yeah, but yeah, no. So those are that's the kind of the trivia that goes on. But Wayne Gretzky went in the same year as my uncle Scotty went into
Pretty
the
good.
hockey team.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
so
good.
yeah,
Um,
little lineage there.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Last thing I got is where can people find you? Where can people reach you?
Reach me.
Yeah.
They can always. We'll give you you want an email address or
Just like are you on Facebook,
oh.
Instagram? Um,
Hmm.
yeah, of course, refcoach.ca.
Yeah, actually, probably refcoach.ca. Put
Yeah,
that on because I get the emails that are on there. Um, and on there, I can also update. That's a website, right? I
yeah,
can also put my number and what have you for texting, that kind of thing there.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I appreciate the wisdom and the tips, and um, I look forward to doing this again. And I know that this is our first episode was a popular one, so we'll keep this going, and maybe next time we'll break down a little NHL refereeing and what we think about what's going on there.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be an interesting subject.
It can be for sure.
Good. All
All
right.
right. Thank you very
Okay.
much. We'll talk to you again.
Okay. Bye for now.
Okay. Bye bye.